Hey everybody, welcome to the Slick Tree Podcast. I'm your host, Colby Langford. The point of this show is to help improve ourselves as dogmen and to raise the quality of the dogs on the end of our lead. So let's settle in, turn the volume up, and let's see if we can't learn a trick or two together from our guests.
I started him and his sister and thought that I was going to like his sister better. I like females, and started both of them. And at about 8 to 9 months old, he was a very nice young dog. He would, you could take him, cut him, go get treed, hunt as deep as he needed to, stay treed. He was just a really exceptional young dog. And I had his sister doing about the same thing and couldn't hunt them both. I had Stomp and Trixie, uh, and so I'm always overloaded with young dogs. So Brady Foster was a nephew of Mitch Esmond. Me and Mitch had been friends for years, and Brady was probably about 14-year-old. And 15, somewhere in that, he had started squirrel hunting. Very, very good young man. Loved to squirrel hunt, loved to comp hunt. And he was 15, 16 maybe at that time. And I asked him, I said, let's go, to go hunting. And we went, and I took Pac Man, and he liked him. And I said, hey, how would you like to, have half of him? And he said, what would it cost? I said, just hunt him hard, put him in competition, and win with him all you can, and we'll be partners on him. And he took him and done that, and promoted him, and just he loves Pac Man. He's always was sending me pictures and tailgate shots, and we traveled a lot of miles. And some of my best memories of him is when we took him into the UKC finals in South Carolina, and a year or so later took him to the NKC hunt, World Hunt in South Carolina, and got in the finals with him again. And unfortunately, both times he did not win. We didn't get a break or two, but he's two-time reserve world champion. Brady won a lot of state championship hunts around here with him. He's a NKC, US, UKC, OMCBA, NSB squirrel champion. So he's been promoted a lot and won a lot. Brady done a good job with him.
Well, everybody, you are listening to the Slick Tree Podcast, and today we're doing another good old dog series. And we're talking about McCurdy's Pac Man, and I've got Donnie McCurdy here on the phone with me. How you doing today, Donnie?
Doing great.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it very much.
So, Pac Man is out of Tree Knocking Mike and Trixie. Your dog Trixie, correct?
Right. Trixie was a female I got when she was about 7 or 8 months old, and was fortunate enough to win the actually my first competition hunt with Trixie. I took her to a world hunt and kept winning casts and wound up in the finals and won it. And I hunted her a couple of years. She always, she had several top 10 finishes in world hunts. And Ott Sizemore, who owned Burlap, he and I became friends, and he told me, said, hey, if you ever breed her, you need to, if possible, you need to breed her to a dog named Tree Knocking Mike. And I had no idea who it was. I was new to cur dogs and didn't know one line from another. He said that the Tree Knocking Mike females have crossed really good on Burlap. And so when I got ready to breed Trixie, I called. Everybody had told me, said, you won't be able to get in touch with Brad Wooten. He won't answer the phones. And I texted him, and he answered me in about 2 seconds and told me to bring her on down. So I did, we had a real good litter, and Pac Man is out of that litter. We raised him, and I raised him, got him started, got him really settled in good, and then partnered with Brady on him. That was the first of 2 crosses with Tree Knocking Mike and Trixie.
Did you hunt with the Mike dog any? Can you tell us anything about him?
Never hunted with him a lick. Always heard that he was a good squirrel dog, a good coon dog. I was just, like I said, I was new to cur dogs. Trixie was my real first OMCBA squirrel dog. I had coon hunted all my life and was more involved. I was involved in that, and because of some issues, I had to quit coon hunting because of a neighbor that got into selling meth. But anyway, that's another story. But I didn't want to leave here at night anymore, but wanted to continue to fool with tree dogs. So I got into the squirrel dog business, and people kept saying, I'd heard a friend of mine or two say something about OMCBA. I didn't know what that was, but when I got to delving into it, realized that's what I wanted to do, is get into that line instead of the tree and curves or fast. And Trixie, I had one other dog that was OMCBA, and before I found Trixie, and when I unsnapped her the first time, she left like a walker dog, and I thought, this is what I've been looking for. And so I was going strictly on what Ott Sizemore had told me. He said, if you can breed her to this dog, that's what you need to breed her to. And I had no idea of the success that those 2 crosses would bring. So I never did get to hunt with Tree Knocking Mike. Just always heard his reputation, and the biggest thing was not getting to hunt with him. The biggest thing was that he reproduced, and that was what that's what I looking for. And as anybody knows, a dog, you don't get what they've done, you get what the pups is doing, and that's what I was looking for when Ott told me that is how he reproduced, and was lucky enough that it crossed very good on Trixie.
Yeah. What can you tell me about Pac Man's litter?
Pac Man's litter was a very good one. There was I owned 2 or 3 of them. Me and Eric Stillman had one named Lacey. She's in Kentucky now, and well, she was very nice. She won some world hunts. We sold her to a gentleman named in Kentucky, and his name escapes me now, Doug Reed. And Doug had marked some of the doodlies down here hunting her, and they done very well with her, and won a couple of world hunts, I think. And when we had her as just a junior dog, she was competing and winning, state hunts and junior hunts all over. Just a very nice young dog. Pac Man come out of that litter. He was extremely nice. I had a female that was very nice out of that litter. There was several in that litter that didn't get comp hunted. They just was extremely good squirrel and coon dogs. So the whole litter really made good dogs out of that litter. So at about 7 months old, the pups are about 7 months old, and Trixie started coming to heat, and I started getting all these calls from everybody saying, hey, this pup's treeing squirrels, this pup's doing this pup's doing that. So I called Brad again, and I said, Brad, hey, let me do this again. And so we took her back and bred her again 7 months later. So the pups are 6 months later. The pups are only about 7 or 8 months different. Them 2 litters are, and the second litter was as good or better than the first. They all turned out extremely nice too. Pac Man was an easy starting, like most of them. Most of them Trixie Mike dogs didn't start till they got about 7 or 8 months old. But when they started, it was like it was on. I mean, after they treed the first squirrel, then you were treating, squirrels with them like they'd been doing it all their lives. They went from 0 to 60, and so all of them was starting at 7 or 8 months old and just turning into squirrel dogs very quickly after they done that.
Could you tell us what you like to do to start one? Kind of what's your method and what your tactics are?
Well, my method is a little bit different. I've never started a Trixie dog or one of these tree marking dogs by showing them game. They just the sight of game never turned them on. They would you could put a live squirrel in a trap in a tree, but if they smelled a wild squirrel out there, they wouldn't pay no attention to it. They wanted to tree that scent. And a lot of these dogs, and a lot of the ones I sold to people, they treat a squirrel, their first squirrel, and then had never seen a squirrel. They just, it was bred in them. They wanted to tree and did. And my method of starting them was just, I would take them. They was also very independent, and I'd start walking them when they was puppies. I'd take them a few times with an older dog just to walk them around. They never would tree with another dog. That was not in them. So I didn't have to worry about taking them with another dog. I could take them with my other dogs, and they would just, they'd start on their own. And a lot of them, their first tree they were split trees, and you'd shoot a squirrel out to them, and then they were ready to start hunting on their own because they'd just started. I remember Pac Man's first tree. I was in South Georgia, and I was hunting some older dogs. I was hunting Trixie, and had Pac Man out and walked him through a little place where I love to start pups. I love to take pups to down there because it was just loaded with squirrels. And I was walking him down through there, and a squirrel jumped out. Actually jumped out from the side of a tree right in front of him. He ran it to a hole in the bottom of a tree and treed it. And I picked him up, didn't get it, but he treed a squirrel for that, not far from there, just a few minutes later, and I got a shot out to him. And that was his start. He was not quite 7 months old, and it was just a steady progression then with him, where he was getting deeper and deeper, getting tree, holding tracks. Holding trees longer and longer. But most of these dogs just pretty much started on their own. They don't start extremely early. I really don't like a dog that starts at 3 or 4 or 5 months old, because they're not ready to hunt. I like them when they start at 7 or 8 months old. Then you can kind of pour it on them. They can hunt by themselves, and they don't learn a lot of bad habits. So my method is just walk them around when they're pups, watch them, judge by their actions, what they're doing, and when it's time to take them to the big woods and when it's time to hunt them by themselves. And most of them would just one day tree, and then it would be on from there.
What does Pac Man hunt like, or what did he hunt like in his prime, anyways, as far as just kind of his nose style and his range and mouth?
Well, Pac Man always had a good mouth. It was a good carrying mouth, I'll say that. And he would always go. It wasn't nothing for him to go, 800, 1,000 yards and get treed if he needed to. He'd tree in 150 yards if he needed to. It wasn't, he treated them as they come to him. Had a very good wind and nose. He was a stay put, feet on the tree dog. Not a lot of jumping, not a lot of wasted effort there. Just treed, put his feet on the tree and treed. Very stylish little tree dog. And he would always go, very deep. I remember being in the finals of the Georgia State at our club with Brady with him, and Brady trees him in at 800 yards, and he's sitting in there clicking with time running out. And so you could hear him a long way. He would go wherever he needed to go to get treed, and was just a stylish little dog. Would hunt. When you cut him, didn't act like a male dog. No hiking, no peeing, none of that scratching stuff. When you cut him, he went hunting for a squirrel. He left a lot of these dogs out of Trixie. Trixie would do it, and a lot of these other dogs do it. People that think this is crazy, but Pac Man, Trixie, some different ones I've got. At the first tree, you have to watch where you're stepping, because they'll take a poop at the first tree. They don't stop before they get treed. So their mindset is to get treed and get treed quick. So they leave in a dead run, and you can tell once they get treed, then they'll sit down or they'll back up and empty out right then, instead of taking the time to do it before they get treed. I've got a pup here out of him named Wild Card, and most of the time when you walk to her first tree, you can tell she's emptied out right there after she treed. So he passes that same thing on to his pups.
Does he have much check back into him, or is he pretty much just going to go?
No, he was always the top dog. Once he started, there was no checking back in. You cut him and you got him off a tree, and I've got a female out of him, another female out of him that I partnered with Chad Crow on, named Barbie, and she's actually double Trixie. It's Pac Man bred to his half sister, and she'll go. I cut her loose one day up a creek, and she in the middle of the day, and she went a mile and got treed and had a squirrel. And I told Chad, I said, you got to get a handle on her. He said, I got a good handle on her. He said, I cut her. She gets treed. I handle her and I recut her. He said, that's the handle I want on one. And so they're that type dog. Most of them, I could count on one hand the times when you cut Pac Man or Barbie or some of them, once they started treeing, them checking back in. That's just not that's not really in them. They're gonna go somewhere somehow and get treed. Card, I've had her treed over half a mile. When you cut them and the squirrel's not down, you need to get ready to go. Now they've got sense enough. If you want to put a handle on them, you can do that. But and around here where we hunt, it's got to the point where you can't hardly hunt a dog that goes, a mile or a half mile, or, because they'll be off the WMA, off the government land, off your lease, or across two highways.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned earlier that you grew up hunting hounds. Do you hunt these curs about the same way, as far as even from the time they're a pup, and when you're hunting like you said, hunting pups with the older dogs? Are you pretty much just cast them off the tailgate and just waiting and then going to them, or do you walk them in when they're younger? Or?
Well, when they're puppies, I was raised. I never remember not having, a hound of some kind of mine. Daddy always let me have, claim one of them, and my brothers. And we went out, and when I was little, we would walk hunt these dogs, because you didn't have the type dogs that would blow through the country. And then as later on, I got the type walker dogs that you cut them off the tailgate, and then you drove around to wherever there's treed if you could, or just walk to them, because they would not, if they come back in, they'd had a bad night with me. I wanted to get them off a tree somewhere. And that's kind of what I was expecting with squirrel dogs. I had no idea, because I'd never really hunted with squirrel dogs. The only squirrel hunting I'd ever done growing up was with our coon dogs. I'd sneak them out sometime when before Daddy got home from work, and have them treeing squirrels. And so I was used to that kind of dog, even treeing squirrels. So when I got these curs, and they was hunting, well, I started out with a couple of feist, and they wouldn't get outside, and that lasted about 2 trips for me. And I said, these got to go. I got one treeing cur, and she was a nice little dog that would hunt 700-800 yards. And she was just a really good tree and squirrel dog out of Jammin' Bow. She taught me kind of what a squirrel dog, was supposed to be and how they act. And then I got, like I said, I got one OMCBA dog, and I didn't much like it. I got Trixie, and when I snapped her, she left like a rocket. And I said, this is what I'm used to. This is how I grew up with dogs that would leave when you cut them loose. And so it was entirely different, though. I had to forget the whole mindset of hounds when you trying to train a cur. They're totally different. They're a lot smarter than the hounds, it seems like. If you make a mistake with them, they never forget it or forgive you a lot of times. They remember it forever. So it's a couple of people that had hunted them a long time said, forget everything you ever knew about training a coon dog. These curs are different, and they were exactly right. Just getting them out there and walking them around and not showing them a coon or not showing them a cage game or not turning something loose on them was a whole new ball game for me. And then it was amazing to me that you could just take a puppy or a 6-7 month old dog and start walking them through the woods, and one day they'd just tree a squirrel. And they didn't even know what was up there, and then it was on. But that was the type of dogs I started with Trixie, and then the tree knocking Mike dogs out of Trixie. And that's pretty much all I've hunted now since 2012 is dogs out of Trixie, Ammo, and tree knocking Mike. So it is totally different. It was totally different than any of the coon hunting or training coon hounds I'd ever done.
Yeah. What tell us about his conformation when he was in his prime. Like if you were to pull him out of the dog box and sitting there looking at him on the tailgate, what would we be looking at? Just his head and ear set, dues, what his coat and colors like, and just kind of describe him.
Yeah, most of the Trixie dogs had dew claws on the back. Some of them's got double dew claws, and she had doubles, and so they had double dew claws. He's got a good square head and good muzzle on him. Had good feet. We never did show him. That's just not our thing. Brady never was into that, but he is a 45-pound dog, muscular, good-looking dog. Straight legs and good feet, good ear set on him. Not hound ears, but not nothing that's gonna stick up either. Just a good set of ears on him. Had a good mouth. He's wired a little bit in the kennel. He don't pace a whole lot, but he ain't ever gonna just be the kind that just lays around either. So always muscular, always ready to go. Very athletic dog. Could move through the woods is quick. That's what Brady always says. He can move through the woods as quick and as smooth as any dog I've ever hunted, and that's why he liked him so much.
What was his coat? What's his coat like, and what's his heat tolerance?
Now that was the one thing that when you're dealing with burlap dogs, and Trixie was directly out of burlap, and she was heavy Thunder sport bred. Her mama was a double Thunder dog, a Thunder sport dog bred back to a Thunder dog. So she was double Thunder on the mama side, but she is directly out of burlap, and is always a joke about burlap because he was thick haired as anything you'd ever see, and he could not stand any heat at all. He was an extreme tree dog. He was an extreme squirrel dog. He was something else to behold. He could get treed as quick as anything I'd ever been in the woods with, and was just a squirrel dog deluxe, and won a lot of hunts. I think he won 3 or 4 world hunts, and he was just extremely nice. But his one fault was he couldn't take a lot of heat. And Pac Man got that coat He's more of a thicker coated dog. He wasn't as bad as his granddaddy about heat, but that you could tell the difference if you're hunting them when it's 30 degrees or when it's 80 degrees. They definitely do not have the heat tolerance of like my stomp dog. He's very heat tolerant. He's got a radiator, and his pups, most of them's got a good radiator, and it don't bother them a whole lot. But now Pac Man, he you could tell heat did bother him some. He would slow his barking down some on the tree. He couldn't withstand heat like some other dogs. But I'm not sure he was much different than the majority of your curs. A lot of them can't take the heat like a hound, but he did not have the greatest heat tolerance of that he could have.
You might have said it and I missed it, but is he a brindle dog?
Yes, he's brindle, and that's funny. I always heard that stories about Bud and Liz and blah blah blah, but Brad, I had 16 pups out of Tree Knocking Mike, and you was pretty much it was hard to find white hair on them. They were all brindle, and they were dark brindle. And he told me that they had never been a pup born out of Tree Knocking Mike that wasn't brindle. I don't know that for a fact, but Brad told me that. He said that there's never been anything born out of him that wasn't brindle. And so I know out of my 16, they were all brindle, and very, very little white, if any, on them. Some of them have a white toe or a little white patch on their chest, but most of them was solid brindle. So yeah, he's a brindle dog.
What would you say his biggest strength as a dog is?
Yeah, his biggest strength was I'd say two things. His hunt, he would get deep very quick. He was quick in the woods. That may have been his biggest strength. He could get very deep very quick. But then he had his strength was also that he could, when he treed, he stayed there. You didn't have to worry about him moving or anything of that nature. He was a stay put tree dog. So I guess what I loved about him and still like about him and the pups he's producing and all the reports I'm getting on his pups is when you cut them loose, they have extreme speed and big hunt.
Well, what would you say his biggest weakness was?
I'd say his biggest weakness was probably what we talked about earlier, that he, the heat tolerance thing. He's got a heavy coat. Now I've got it's funny. Barbie and Cover Girl both Wild Card that I've got. Both of them are very slick coated. Didn't take after him and didn't take after the burlap. Both of them very slick coated, but his heavy coat and the fact that, and I'm probably not going to be out there hunting around here where we hunt in 85 degree weather anyway. And if it got 85 degrees, it was hard on him. He'd still. There's never been a time when we unsnap Pac-Man, he can go hunting and go hunting hard. But you can tell the difference in them when it's hotter than it is when it's cool.
Yeah, that little female pup I've got off of him at the house right now, she seems like she's going to be pretty slick coated. She's still pretty young, but
yeah.
Why don't you tell everybody where you're from, Donnie?
I'm from actually, I'm originally from Dalton, Georgia. That's about 90 miles north of Atlanta on 75, and about 40 miles south of Chattanooga. So right 75 comes right through the middle of Dalton, Georgia. I was born and raised there. I actually live in Chatsworth, Georgia now, which is just a suburb of Dalton, just right across the river. So been over here for about 40 years. Me and my wife I married a Chatsworth girl and come over here and build a house, and we've been here for last 35, 40 years. So got two children, Kristen, my baby girl, and Matthew McCurdy, and both of them are very, very wonderful children. Never gave me any problems. And my wife Kay has always supported me 100% in these squirrel dogs. It's funny. I seen a meme that said, don't get you a woman that don't ask when you're gonna be home, but how the dogs are doing, and she'll actually do that, and ask me about the dogs and which one of them's doing this and which is doing that. She's very, very supportive of me in my hunting. I've been very blessed, and my kids have been too. Matt hunted with me quite a bit growing up. Kristen's always been my pup socializer. She would spend hours with all these puppies, petting them and bringing them in the house and playing with them and socializing them. So she's been a big part of my dogs and these puppies that I've raised. And now I've got two grandboys. Matthew's got two boys, Colt and River. They're 8 and 10. And they took up where Kristen left off. They've started now. The first thing they say when they get here is, "Hey, Papa, can I go turn the puppies out if I've got a young dog here?" And they'll go get in a big lot with them or turn them outside or whatever and run, play with them and socialize them for me. So I've been very blessed to have a family that supported me in all this and was and didn't get upset when I was gone hunting every day.
You said that your dad had hounds, which with you growing up, what kind of hounds were you slipping off to the squirrel hunt with?
Well, we just had growing up. We had great dogs. Is about all we had. Nobody. My dad thought papers were silly. That didn't. That old saying, "Them papers don't treat coons," or whatever. And he was kind of like that. He was raised that they had meat dogs, and when I was a kid, Daddy had a dog that named Lady that she was phenomenal. You could come across a field and start kicking brush piles, and she would run rabbits. And when you went out of the fields and started in the woods, she'd tree squirrels. You could take her at night, and she'd tree coons and possums. She was just an all-around dog, and just run loose in the yard. And people come from all around to squirrel hunt and coon hunt and with Lady, and that's the kind of dogs he had. She was just something somebody had a couple litter of pups, and he'd got a couple of them and raised them. I don't know. She looked like a black and tan, but I have no idea what she really was. And that's just kind of the dogs that we had. I remember the dog I remember squirrel hunting the most was a little walker dog, or he looked like a walker. I don't know what he was, but half the time when I shoot, I didn't even carry a leash. I'd just turn them loose there at the house. But when I'd shoot a squirrel out, they'd grab it and run with it and eat squirrel, and that'd always make me mad. But it was just I was always fooling with the dogs or hunting or fishing when I was a kid. That's all I thought about. So I was out there turning dogs loose when I probably wasn't supposed to be in, and getting them treeing squirrels. Possum hunting them at night if I could get anybody to go with me. I remember one time when I was very, very young, and Daddy wouldn't go hunting, and so Mama felt sorry for me, and she went possum hunting with me. So I loved it. I loved dogs from the time I was, as long as I can remember. I love hounds, or I love tree dogs.
Yeah, I'm enjoying these old stories. You got any more hunting stories from with dogs when you were young?
Well, no, I don't know that I've got any more stories. I remember when I was very little, Daddy would go to South Georgia some, and it would normally be 2 or 3 guys, grown men, and then Daddy had a pickup truck with a camper on it, just a camper hull. And they'd just throw some hay in the back of the truck and throw 3 or 4 dogs back there. And being a kid, I'd say, Daddy, if you'll let me go, I'll ride with the dogs. And a lot of times I would leave the house in the back with 4 or 5 old big hounds and ride all the way South Georgia, and we'd coon hunt half the night or all night. And then I'd ride back so I spent a lot of time riding around in a big dog box with the dogs when I was a kid. Cause all the men folks, grown men, got set up front, So I was tickled to death to get to go. I didn't care. I'd get me on them cold nights. I'd just pull up a couple of them hounds and keep warm and sleep on the way home. So it was always fun if I could get to go.
Well, jumping back to Pac Man, what tell us about how he is as a stud dog.
Well, Brady didn't want to breed him, and I didn't really either. As long as he was competition hunting him, we wanted to just keep his mind right. And after he won a couple of the reserve world hunts, we had a guy, Ken Grice, called us and wanted to breed his flow female to him, and he had some extremely nice pups out of them, and we've had several breed to him. I'm never going to be the kind that ask anybody to breed their dogs. It's been limited breeding. We don't really push them. If he was here, if somebody wanted to breed to him, and Brady didn't do that either. I bred him 2 or 3 times. Me and Brady has, and got some nice pups out of him. And the last 2 times I bred him, I actually bred the dogs to him on the 9th day, and bred them 1 time so I'd just have a couple of puppies. And that was Barbie was the result of the first time I did that, and she's an extremely nice pup. And Chad just won last year. He won the junior OMCBA junior spring hunt with her, and then the next weekend or weekend after that, he won a pretty good size NSD hunt with her. So she's a very nice dog. We're looking for some things out of her. She just has turned 2-year-old. Brady's hunting a Rip dog he calls Rip out of Pac Man and Thunder that he's raised, and that's the litter wild cards out of. We're hearing a lot of the pups are just 6 to 10 months old. We're hearing a lot of reports out of them that they're treeing early. Very nice dogs, very big hunt, good noses. So we're getting a lot of good reports out of his pups. We've had a couple of people come back for the second time to breed, and has told us that they'll breed to him the 3rd time if when the dogs come back in. So people have been happy with his pups.
Good deal. So tell us about the kind of what you see in the future of your kennel, just as far as what else you've got there, and kind of what direction you're going in with everything.
Well, we as you may or may not know, I've also got Stomp here, and I've got a couple of females out of Trixie that I've still got here. I've got Habit that's out of Stomp and Trixie that I've had some good luck with, and won a couple world hunts and reserve world hunts and things. And so I bred her to Pac Man, and that was about as tight as I could ever imagine breeding 2 dogs. They were almost 3/4 brothers, sisters. So I've got 2 pups out of them right now that's 5 months old. I took them to the woods a couple of times, big woods, and you better have a tracking collar on them because they're gonna be gone. They're the little female, she's already treeing some, but you got to be quick to get to her because she's on to the next thing. She'll run every track it's made. She started doing that around here about 3 months old, running deer and rabbit and squirrels and anything that runs. She's been running it. So she's my next pup that I'll be fooling with him. one of them. So for the kennel, I'll probably put Habit in some more hunts this year. She's 6-year-old, and then I may retire her and start breeding her some and see what I can get out of her. She's kind of the heart of my kennel out of Stomp and Trixie. I also got 2 Pac Man females that we like a whole lot, Wild Card and Barbie. And we'll probably breed them to Stomp if we can get them bred before he gets too old. He's about 10-year-old, and Pac-Man's 9. So we're running out of time on these dogs. Last time I had them at the vet, though, both of them was potent, very potent. We're still getting big litters out of both of them and having no problems. So I'd say my next thing is trying to finish out. I also got a Stomp female that's about 18 months old that I'm liking a whole lot. She reminds me a lot of Habit. She reminds me a lot of Stomp, and we call her Blaze. So I'll be finishing her and Wild Card out. I'll probably try to find a male to breed Habit to in the next year or so, and start with that generation and breed her some and see if she produces like her mama. I'm liking the female out of her that I got right now, so I hope she can produce like her mama does. The future of the kennel is to just we'll raise some more puppies. The last 2 litters I've raised strictly for myself. I've never bred a female here to try to sell puppies. I've never bred a female here unless I needed a puppy to hunt myself. And that's one thing I've always said to myself when I see a guy promoting a stud dog, but he's hunting something else. If I can't hunt pups out of my stud dogs or out of my females, I sure won't ask nobody else to do it. And like I said, that's what I'm hunting. I've got a couple of Stomp females here that I'm hunting. I got 2 Pac-Man females that we're hunting, and I got another Pac-Man and Stomp pup that I'm about to start hunting. So just kept this line for years. Ever since I got Trixie, I've kept this line, and I kind of know what they're going to do. I know what to expect out of them, and just try to make little improvements on them and see if I can get a decent squirrel dog.
Yeah, why don't you go and tell some about Stomp?
Well, Stomp is I got Stomp from when he was 7, just almost 8 months old, about 7 months old. Been hearing about him from Tommy Mears, which I seen Tommy in a hunt of the day, so they may be fixing to get back into it. They've been out of it for 2 or 3 years, but they've used to raise some of the best dogs around, train some of the best dogs around, and I kept hearing about this puppy that John talking about it, that he was coon hunting actually, and when he was 7 months old, he said he'd already shot about 25 coons out on him, and Tommy got him, and Tommy started squirrel hunting him, and I asked them would they sell him, and got him, and he was 7 months old, and started hunting him. He was just, when he was 8 months old, you could just turn him loose. You could go make 8 or 10 trees with him. He didn't tree very hard, but he would just go get treed and be standing there with his feet on the tree when you got to him. And he treed plenty enough for you to get to him. And like I said, I guess that's one reason he's heat tolerant. He just don't waste no energy. There ain't no jumping, no nothing, no, just a steady tree dog that puts his feet on the tree and never moves. I always hunted good. I've only liked two males since I started this, and that's the Pac Man and Stomp, because both of them, when you cut them loose, they didn't hike their legs and didn't do all that other stuff. They just went hunting and got treed. And so I hunted him a lot, promoted him a lot, and he was very, very good to me. Won a lot of state hunts, a lot of hunts at Jamestown, won the NKC World with him. He's OMCBA Grand Squirrel, NKC Squirrel Champion, UKC Squirrel Champion. So he's been real good to me. Won all over the place for me. And produced, of course, he's the daddy to, I bred him to Trixie, and he's the daddy to Bad Habit, who's won the OMCBA World, won the OMCBA Reserve World, and the LMC World last year. So he's produced good for me too.
So let's talk about kind of your kennel setup. You mentioned earlier about having. It sounds like you've kind of got like a big pen, the big lot, and you let run pups run. Are you somewhere you can let pups run loose any, or what's your setup
Yeah,
like?
I've got two separate. I don't keep a lot of dogs. I've got too many, but I've got four pens in one area. Then I've got a barn. Just a small barn with 3 more kennels in it, and then I've got a kind of an isolation kennel that's off the ground that I keep. If somebody comes, it's covered and so on and so forth. So if I need to keep a female in heat, I can put her in there. That's off to itself. But behind the barn, I've got about a 3-acre lot that's fenced in and with hot water around the top. So the only dog I ever had to get out, I left Stomp in there one night, and he had never got out, and I left him in there one night, and he winded a coon and crossed it, and he woke me up about 12 o'clock. I could hear a dog barking, and he was sitting about 500 yards down a branch down there with a coon tree, so I had to put hot water around the top of it. But I do, when pups get big enough where a hawk or a coyote won't eat them. When they get about 10 weeks old, I just turn them loose. I've got a dog, a feeder and a dog feeder and a dog house out, a couple of them in there, and I just turn them loose in that lot and raise them in there running loose. And that way you don't have I hate barking in the kennel. I hate that. That's one of my pet peeves. And that way you don't have to hear all them puppies barking. You can tell what they're, kind of the actions. You just go back and walk them around. It's about a 3-acre pen with, it's mostly pasture, but it's got enough trees in it that there'll be some squirrels come in there, and I can feed them and get them in there if I need to. And you can tell then they'll be checking trees or treeing in there. And that's what I'm saying. My little 4-month or 5-month-old now, she's, I've had to put her up because she started treeing back there in that pen. And so I had to put her up. The male's still running loose. He ain't started treeing yet, but I can just kind of raise them back there running loose. It makes a big difference in it. I think they start a lot sooner. And they roam around in there and dig holes and chase things, and it's just very good for them. So I'm lucky enough to have that, kennel set up so I can, and also if like Stomp, I don't hunt. Once the dog gets 5-6 year old and it's finished, I'm very bored with them, and so I'll put some of those dogs like Stomp and back there, and I can turn him loose in that pen, and he can get exercise, and he'll go down there and tree him a squirrel, and it tickles him to death, and I can pet him up, and so it's an exercise pen too. I can turn dogs loose and let them exercise a little bit, and, run around during the summertime or early fall. So it's a good place, good setup like that for me.
I gotcha. On your main kennels, or you just you said you had one that was like an elevated, but you're running concrete, or what are you running for kennel wise?
All my kennels are concrete floors, except the one that I've got elevated. And I don't know why I always heard that that if you had a dog up elevated, that that they wouldn't draw as many dogs in, and I'm sure it's an old wives' tale when in heat. But I also got um, for some crazy reason I lost my good female Janie here at the house out of my pen, out of my barn kennel, and I had got some of those slammable gates when I built that barn out there, and I didn't realize that when you slammed them, sometimes they would bounce back open. And I had Janie out of the second litter of Tree Knocking Mike, and it was Pac Man's younger sister, and I had a lot of success with hers, won some big hunts, and I had just won, the NKC Reserve World and so on and so forth with her. And one night, I guess that gate didn't close, and so it bounced back open. So the next day I went out there and she was gone, and I never found her. And I'm sure she got out that night, and normally I would have had the gate closed and she would have been in that 3-acre lot. But I didn't have a pup in there, and I opened the gate that night so the horses I got a couple of horses, and me and my wife. And so the horses could go in there and graze just to, everything fell in place where she got out. So she got out of that kennel, and then she got out of the lot. And no telling how far she went to try to look for a squirrel that night. And I never found her. So that's been almost 2 years ago now. So as a result of that, my barn is when there's a kennel, and if they was to get out of that kennel, there's another chain link fence kennel around the barn. So they have to get out of their kennel, and then out of that kennel, and then out of the 3-acre lot. So if somebody brings their valuable female down here and I'm keeping it, I've got them in a kennel, in a big kennel. So
Alcatraz.
That kind of taught me a lesson. They can be here. I've had some bad luck in the last couple of years with dogs. I lost Janie, and then we had a habit's brother that we lost to a twisted gut last year. And so they can be gone very quick.
Yeah, they can.
That's why I always want to have one and have a couple coming on. My thing is puppies and getting them started and getting them going. I have always been that way with coon dogs. I'd rather start a pup than anything in the world. And I was like that with coon dogs. And I remember a guy coming picking me up one night, and I put a pup in the box, and he said, "Why don't you hunt your good dog?" And I said, "'Cause if he treats 3 coons, it won't make me happy. He's supposed to do that. But if this pup runs a deer and does this and does that and looks it like an idiot, but then trees a coon, it's going to tickle me to death." I said, so he ain't got the chance to make me happy, but this pup does. And that's what I love. I just love to see a little progress and watch them get better and figure out how to help them get better and figure out what's going on with the dog. So I really enjoy that. And so that's what I've always kind of done is fool with these puppies. So I've always, as a result, I've always got 2 or 3 young dogs too many. And that's why I've, through the years, like Brady and different ones, I've got partners. I've got a partner, Mickey Wheeler's got a dog that I partnered with him on. Brady, I partnered with him. Chad Crow, partnered with him. When I get these dogs and I get too many and I've got one I think that can win in competition, I'll say, "Hey, what about let's partner on this thing, and you do the hunting. I've got it where you can win with it. All you got to do is is hunt it hard and go." And so, because I've always got something else I'm working on.
It's quite a problem to have.
Well, it's sometimes you can get too many, and it does become a problem.
Yeah. Well, Donnie, I sure appreciate you coming on here and giving some of your time. Kind of been trying to get you on here for a while, and but sure appreciate you.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, and I sure appreciate it. I'm flattered that you'd want to have me on your podcast, and just an old guy that's got some squirrel dogs, and was lucky enough to get a good female produced, and been hunting pups out ever since. So just had some good dogs that produce good, and been very fortunate, and the Lord's been good to me to let me have these dogs and the health to hunt them.
All right, well, thanks again, Donnie. Everybody, take care and keep wearing out that boot leather.
Thank you very much.
I just want to give everyone that's listening a sincere thank you. Getting this podcast going has been a project. I really hope you're enjoying it, and if you don't mind, give the show a good rating and review wherever you're listening to it at, or share it on your social media to help get some traction. I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to your feedback.